Hello viewers, Super GT here. Welcome along to another FIA race on Gran Turismo. Now, this race is going to be really tricky because I only have one chance to get it right, the 4 o'clock slot, as you can see on the left, because I have to go after that and do something else. So, I have to get this one right, with one chance. There is the circuit, Monza without the first chicane, which just means the second chicane becomes the new Shadow Realm portal, essentially. So as I said, you only have one chance to get this right, or I only had one chance to get this right, so I jumped in this practice session. Let's have a look at the track. So you're going flying through the first chicane, which isn't a chicane anymore, it's just a straight line. Curva Grande here, flat out again, but I mean that looked kind of easy, that corner, but it is actually quite easy to get wrong. And then you've got the Della Rogers chicane here, which is where things are going to pinch up, no doubt about that. And that's something we're going to have to certainly look out for. And then, of course, we have the famous two Lesmos as we round out this bottom half of the circuit. So I was jumping into this practice session here really essentially just to learn the race before I did the race, basically. You don't want to be going into the race not knowing what you're doing, especially if you only have one chance to get it hooked up. And through Ascari, pretty tricky, then through Parabolica, or Padabadabadaba, as Lando Norris would call it. And we get through there just about alright. So we have to work out, is this BMW good enough for this race? And is my track limit knowledge good enough for this race? As we come through here, you can see that, well, I don't think it is, ignoring the track limit once again. So, this is still the practice session, this isn't the actual race yet. It's a good idea to jump into a proper qualifying session, and being the kind guy I am, I jumped out at the front of the slipstream queue, and just have a look at this. Look how mad the slipstream gain is. You can see just how far back Quintin is, but look at the speed difference. It is absolutely crazy when you have the slipstream. Look at him. He's well on his way. I'm going to move over here to give him the actual inside line. And he just goes flying through. Look at that. He's gained about a second on one straight alone. And that gives you an idea of just how OP slipstream is in this race. So I bottled my lap, as per usual. And we can start this race from the back to just to see what it might be like in the actual race if I were to be starting this far back. Hopefully I'm not. Let's hope that I can actually hook up a qualifying lap and start a bit further forward than 14th. By lap 4, I got up to 10th behind a fellow BMW user. But the problem we both had is if we have a look at the map, you can see we've been cut adrift from the front group. And now that we don't have slipstream, there's basically no chance of us catching unless they all get penalties or they all do something really stupid. Which could happen, but usually doesn't. And this is what it looks like at the front of the pack. Just look at this. This is just mental. A massive group of 5 cars. In fact, I think there's a few behind as well. All nose to tail. So things can get very, very tricky indeed during the race because of the slipstream. So I did a couple of laps here behind Quintin in order to get some practice in slipstream as well, and also get some practice of getting penalties, which I seem to be really good at. And the main thing really is just trying to learn how to drive the car when it's on worn tyres, but also how to drive the car in slipstream, which does change things. You have to brake a bit earlier, etc. With all that done, it was time to jump in. And here it is. Here is the session. At the moment, my driver rating is sitting about 65,000, so not too bad. About as high as I've ever got it. And this guy came flying in to say hi. Quite interestingly, that's not the line through that corner, as some of you might have gathered. But anyway, qualifying then. This is the actual qualifying. This really matters. This, unfortunately, on the exit, you see just how far behind the group I was let out. Quite frustratingly, but luckily, by the time I got to Ascari on this warm-up lap, everyone was bickering for position, and I managed to catch back up. So we're back on the train. I've got a Nissan GTR ahead, which is actually a very good car to have ahead because it is very good in a straight line. I'm not sure how good this M6 is. Judging by the qualifying and practice races I was doing, it's average in terms of straight line speed. It's alright through the corners, not too bad. It's a good all-rounder, but straight line speed isn't its forte. But as we start our qualifying lap here, you can see just how much I'm gaining on the Nissan. The Nissan, I don't know why he was weaving on the back straight, because he surrendered his own slipstream to the car ahead, and now he's just going to lose out. So I could have gone for the bump draft, but I thought, you know what, no, I'm just going to go for the move here. I've got the momentum, I'm going to go through. And so it was, I don't know why he kind of surrendered his gap there, because he should be in the slipstream with the car ahead. And then he tries to come back through on the outside, kind of compromises us both, I suppose. Then through the chicane, make it through there just about okay. And then looking behind, he's flashing his lights. I'm not sure if that was me or the other car that went past him. But there you go, we move on. And unfortunately at this point you can see that we've lost the toe of the car ahead. That is a problem when you're in a slipstream train. You are relying on the car in front to stay in the train. And unfortunately that didn't happen. So all we can do is just try to nail these corners as best as possible. Brake on the 100 board roughly for this Ascari chicane, and then nice and tentative on the power, then flat out on the final apex of that chicane. The car ahead getting a penalty and actually slowing down slightly, and that actually helped me here because I was just back in the slipstream of that Corvette in front, who's got himself a 5-second penalty. But that's helped me because it gives me a bit of toe down that back straight, through this final corner, and then a bit of toe up until the finish line of this lap. And let's see how this lap goes. Pole position at this moment in time, 37.9. Across the line with a lap that is half a second off the pace, 8th position. That isn't too bad. We did a 38.493. The Corvette bails out to the right hand side. We're going to go for another lap here. Let's see if we can improve on it. Problem is that I didn't get the toe. Well, I did get the toe on the main straight, but then I haven't got the toe now. As you can see, the car's ahead, quite far ahead, and it's unlikely I'm going to catch up. Got someone spinning out in the Mitsubishi on the Della Roger. Going through the second chicane, and I was trying to push a little bit too much, and you can see there we get ourselves a track limit penalty. So with that done, we had to basically bail out and say goodbye to our qualifying session. But you see here, qualified 10th, so it's actually not too bad, and I'll actually be quite happy with that. So going to the race, we're in not too bad of a position, at least we're not right at the back. We're going to do the FIA intro here, but I just wanted to, instead of doing something really stupid and funny, I just wanted to make a point about the F1, just say that it was absolutely crazy and miraculous how good the safety is in modern motorsport, and it was really good to see that Roman is fine. But with that said, let's move into the race, and let's just take a second here just to appreciate this beautiful livery on this BMW. It just looks absolutely banging. Right, let's do this then. 15 laps of Monza, no chicane. Where is the carnage going to... Well, at the first chicane. It says no chicane, but there is a chicane, obviously. It's the second chicane, the old second chicane, the Della Roger chicane. That's where things are going to kick off. No doubt about it. Let's go then. Now, kind of like that practice session I just did, I've started here and I'm already losing ground to the car ahead, which is kind of frustrating. I'm already under threat from this Toyota Supra behind, driven by R. Clark. He doesn't go for the move. Coming through the first corner, there's Citroen ahead. Funny enough, his name is Vitaly Crash, and he has just crashed. Living up to his name, I suppose. Coming into the Della Roger then, making sure we do not get a penalty. Oh, McLaren F1 off to the side of the circuit, getting smashed into the barrier. A couple of penalties up ahead. Look at that. Two drivers with a penalty. Through Lesmo 1. We found ourselves in 8th position, courtesy of those two people crashing, the McLaren and the Citroen. And we're going to gain a couple more here, as the Ford and the Corvette serve theirs. Oh, and the Viper. So 3 American cars there. The Ford GT, the Corvette, and the Viper. Not a good couple of corners for the Americans there. But as we pull up into Ascari, we've gone up 4 positions on that straight. Gone from 8th to 4th. Aston Martin was slow as well. And through here, onto the back straight, we're in a really good position here. We've gone from 10th to 4th in 1 lap. I just need to make sure that I stay in the toe of the car ahead. He's just getting out of the slipstream range. He's 0.6 ahead. I need to keep him within 0.7 ideally. But he is in the toe of the Nissan GTR up in second. Well, the GTR is a very, very quick car in a straight line, as is the Aston Martin, which is in the lead, and I have an Aston Martin behind me. So at this point here, the race is in a rather interesting place because I found myself moving up the order really quickly, and suddenly I've got quite a big gap behind. I'm not, again, slipstreamed here, but just looking at the gap on the left-hand side of the screen, I've just lost about 2/10 on that straight. So that just shows you this M6 BMW not too good in a straight line. I really need some slipstream, which I don't quite have at this point in time. Coming into the Della Roger, lap number 2. You can have a look at the size of that group behind. If those guys get into my slipstream, then I could easily lose. Well, just look at that group. There's 5, 6, 7, 8 positions quite easily if this doesn't go to plan. So through here, I am out of the slipstream range of the car ahead, the Mercedes, but he's got that one, a half-second penalty. Car behind with a penalty as well. This is a crucial moment. Guys behind serving penalties, car in front serving a penalty. This Mercedes, the Spaniard of James, that's going to slow him down. That's going to bring me back into, or firmly into slipstream range. I'm right on his tail now. So now this is a golden opportunity to try to work together and pull away from the group behind. At this point in time, the gap to the car in 5th, 1.5 seconds. So you can see here he's actually turned his indicators on. We're going to bump draft him. We're going to boost him up the straights, sit behind, play this one really tactically, play the long game, be really sensible. There's no point in fighting at this point in the race. I might as well just help him. That'll help me. So James, clearly a quick driver. I was in a practice session with him earlier. He was in that session that we did before the actual race, and he was right at the sharp end. So I know he's quick, probably quicker than me. If that Mercedes, very quick. He's a quick driver. So I'm going to rely on him. I'm going to trust him to be my pace setter. And I'm going to sit in the slipstream, bump him along the straights. Hopefully that is enough to try to pull away from the group behind, possibly gain on the car in front, but we shall see. So here into the Della Roger, lap number 3, just backing off, making sure we don't go into the back of him. I'm going to slow it down slightly. Look how difficult it is to see your reference points through there. So that chicane is very difficult at the best of times to get dead right. But when there's a car directly in front of you, it's really hard to spot exactly where you're going. You do have to cut that one fine. You have to be pushing the limits, otherwise you're not going to be getting any decent lap times at all. So you have to be, at the same time, you have to be pushing it, but also being very careful. And it's quite tricky when you can't quite see exactly what you're looking at. At this point here, you see the gap behind. We've got Mr. R. Clark, who's in the Toyota Supra. The Supra is quick in a straight line. That Supra is a quick car, driven by a quick driver. So we do have to make sure that we're nice and consistent here, getting as many bump drafts as we can on James. Luckily, we don't get penalised for that. Gap behind 1.2, 1.3 at this point in time. So it has closed up slightly since the Swiss guy was behind. So it just shows you that this race is absolutely not over. We only have to make a mistake of, let's say, half a second, and then the cars behind are in the slipstream. So easy to do. Make a small mistake, get a half second penalty. Any of those, very, very, very easy to do. We're going to fast forward here to lap number 8 as we cross to begin lap number 9. The situation's fairly similar, although the gap's got a lot bigger, to about nearly 3 seconds. Look at the consistency on the lap times on the right hand side. The last 4 laps are within a tenth and a half of each other. That just shows you how consistent we're being here in 3rd and 4th, working together. Going through Curva Grande, you don't want to bump him too close to the corner, so here I probably could have caught up with him and bumped him again, but just going into braking zone, you don't want to bump them too late. And my main strategy here is really just to make James very comfortable, if that makes sense. I don't want to bump draft him, I don't want to put myself in a stupid position which might make him make a mistake, because however quick James goes is how quick I go, because I'm in his slipstream. So just need to make sure that he is feeling comfortable in 3rd, not thinking that I'm going to do something stupid, feels put off and makes a mistake. So I had to make him feel comfortable and just bump him at the right times. Feels very weird, sounds very weird to say that, but that's kind of how this felt, to be honest. So by lap 10, the gap behind still about 3 seconds. The gap in front remained fairly static. It was very difficult for us to catch up. The Nissan GT are very quick in a straight line, so even with the two of us bump drafting each other, very difficult to catch up, but we were crucially pulling away from the cars behind. It took, well, you can see here, lap 10, and that gap's only gone from, let's say, 1.2 on lap 2 to about 3 seconds now. So it's taken a good 7-8 laps just to open up 2 seconds. So it just shows you how persistent and patient you have to be. And again, with the lap times, by this point, lap 5 up until 10, so a good 6 laps there, again, still within a tenth and a half of each other, so really good consistency. By this point, lap 11, the tyres just beginning to wear out, and you're going to start feeling that through the longer corners, especially like the Lesmos. and on the exit of the chicane coming up. Lap 14 now. So less than 2 laps to go, and this is the time where you can fight. We've done all the hard work, really, so far. You can see the group behind, not too close, but still in with a shout if we were to do something stupid and get a penalty or fight too much. James hasn't gone defensive, so he's not feeling that he has to defend from me just yet, but we are getting towards the final lap of the race, so he may well feel that soon. The gap's still 3 seconds behind, but with now a lap and a half to go, thinking about when to go for this move. I might as well start going for this move. I could have gone for it there, I did have a run, but the main straight, he'll just come flying back past me. So you really have to time this overtake correctly, because they could go back with an instant reply if you do it at the wrong time. So sitting in 4th, we're in a really good position here. 4th would be a great result, and one way better than I would have expected in a lobby like this, because there's some really good drivers in here. So to get a 4th would be really, really good. To get a 3rd would be even better. And coming up is our probably, as I lose my voice almost, probably our best opportunity to get this move done. But I feel like that Mercedes is probably just about too good in a straight line. He's covered the inside, so I'm going to carry on bumping him and maybe try to lure him into full sense of security that I'm not going to go for this move just yet. You see I'm essentially pushing him up the straight the entire way. There's nothing to separate us. As we come up into Curva Grande, for the 15th and final time, this is where I could potentially strike and go for this move. As we come out of this turn, I'm going to keep my foot pinned, look to the left hand side, the space opens up, and it was just far too risky to go for that move and perhaps easily get myself a penalty, hit him off. There could have been so many things that could have gone wrong there, so we're going to stick him behind and wait for a later corner to potentially go for this move. Cars behind not quite close enough at this point, still 3 seconds behind. We don't really have to worry about them anymore because they are too far behind unless we make a catastrophic error. Second place likewise too far ahead, so this really is a battle for the last step of the podium at this point. As we wind our way round towards the Ascari for the final chicane, for the final time should I say, well it is the final chicane of the race, as we enter the first and then through here in 3rd gear, then nailing the power as early as you possibly can get away with, and then the run down to the final corner, not quite close enough. The Mercedes has got really good traction and he's got off the turn really well, and I'm still not quite gaining. It's going to have to be a mega lunge if I'm going to go for it. It doesn't quite happen. Could I get a cutback on the way out of the corner? Let's have a look. Not quite. So as we come around the final turn, 15 laps complete, it's going to be a 4th, a really static race, but to be fair, I think I played that one as well as I should have done. Just played it really calm, really sensible, and just brought home a really good result. Sometimes, you know, I could have easily have gone for a stupid move, got myself a penalty. It was so easy to do that, and I just wanted to secure a good result, and I did it. We got a 4th, went up 6 positions, so it wasn't a 6th, but gained 6. 273 points for for BMW. Not too bad. Let's have a look at what sort of triggered some of these events on the first lap. So this is the McLaren F1 getting spun out. And he actually gets himself a 3-second penalty for hitting the wall. I mean, that is a real kick in the teeth, that is. And you see here, this is how it happened. The Viper skipping across the curbs and then just an awkward contact on the way out. I'm sure he didn't mean it, but there you go. It's just one of those things that happens. And then a number of penalties being awarded in front. Not that they wanted them to be awarded, of course. So 4 cars with penalties, and that's how I gained those 4 positions later on. So this Ford GT got a 1-second penalty, and I'm sure he was just trying to be really careful there, try to be really tentative, and he got himself a 4-second penalty. Here's a replay of myself going past the 4 cars. So this really was a pivotal moment of the whole race. The fact that I kept the first half a lap clean, not get a penalty, then move past 4 positions, and then this Corvette came out of nowhere, hit this Aston Martin, and just look at the size of the gap that's opened up between myself and this car. Look, already I'm a 1.5 seconds ahead just because of that one move from that Corvette. It shows you that the tiny moments really, really, really matter. This Corvette did really well. Let's have a look at this. This is a crazy moment. This is lap 3. They're going to go into Lesmo 1 4 abreast, as you do. So this Corvette actually came through to finish 5th. This is the car that finished right behind me. So this guy did really well. This come through from here, 12th place, to get through to 5th in the end. So some really quick pace being set by this guy. And this is the reason why these guys didn't catch me up. I felt as though they could, but they were just fighting way too much. So you have the Corvette on the inside, you have the Viper on the right hand side, and then they're going into here. It's not ideal to have to go in narrow, so that slows the whole group down. And then coming into this next corner, Jacques kind of puts his nose up the inside and thinks about it. It just puts off the car in front, and that's something I was trying to not do at all. I was trying to make James in the Mercedes in front of me feel comfortable and just lap calmly. And then here, just like a really silly error from Jacques, just to run the Corvette wide when he was definitely alongside, and then gets himself a penalty. This just hurts everyone in the group. You have to work together. And shout out to this guy. This is the Citroen that just got sent to the Shadow Realm after about 10 seconds of the race. And well, big F in the chat for this lad. He wasn't the only one though, because this Aston Martin decided to pay tribute to him by following off and doing the Vitali crash line as you go off onto the gravel at Curva Grande. And let's have a look at the replay then of this pivotal moment of the race, going past 1, 2, 3, and then in one moment here we're going to go past the 4th car, and then in the back of shot, well, you can't really see it here, but then the Aston Martin and the Corvette getting into a tangle, which just puts that group behind me too far away. And then that's how that race panned out from there on. I just stayed in 4th, played it nice and sensible, and brought home the result. But that is all. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know it was a bit of a weird one because it was such a static race, but it kind of just shows you sometimes the tactics and thoughts you have to put in to just bring home a decent result sometimes. But that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.